I never thought betrayal could feel like this. Not a knife in your back, but an emptiness that eats you alive from the inside. The woman I built my life around built her own escape plan, right under my roof. My name is Daniel, and this is how I went from being a husband with dreams to a man sleeping in his car, watching his wife live in a mansion I unknowingly paid for. But the story doesn't end there, because one day, a lawyer told me something that changed everything. I met Emily when I was 25. She wasn't just beautiful, she was magnetic. The kind of woman who could walk into a room and make every conversation stop mid-sentence. She worked in real estate, smart, ambitious, and charming. I worked construction. Long days, heavy hours, and a simple dream. Build a family that felt safe. We married after 3 years together. It wasn't fancy, just a backyard wedding, some fairy lights, and promises whispered under the stars. She used to say, "You and I, Danny, we're going to build an empire together." I believed her. I believed every word. For years, I worked double shifts. Every paycheck went into our joint account, every dream into her hands. She managed the finances, and I trusted her completely, because that's what love meant to me. Trust. It started small. Late-night calls, she said, were clients. Weekend meetings, she said, were business trips. And the new clothes, far too elegant for the simple realtor job she claimed to have. I remember asking once, half-jokingly, "Em, are you sure you're not selling luxury homes on Mars now?" She laughed, that same beautiful laugh that used to melt me, but this time it sounded fake. Then came the distance. No more good morning texts. No more dinners together. She started locking her phone. And suddenly, I felt like a stranger in my own house. It was a Thursday night. I came home early, a small surprise for her. I had flowers, her favorite Thai takeout, and a plan to talk, to fix whatever was breaking. Her car was in the driveway. But when I walked in, laughter echoed from the living room. A man's voice, a voice that didn't belong there. I froze, and before I could move, she stepped out, wearing my shirt, and behind her, a man from her office, smiling like he owned the place. She didn't even look guilty. She just sighed and said, "Danny, this isn't what it looks like." But it was exactly what it looked like. It was betrayal, wrapped in calmness, standing in my living room. I left that night with just a bag of clothes and a broken heart. She told me she needed space and that it would be better for both of us. A week later, she changed the locks. My name was still on the mortgage, but somehow she made me believe I had no right to stay. I was too ashamed to fight, too broken to think clearly. So I left. I lived out of my truck for weeks, parking near construction sites, showering at the gym, and eating instant noodles at midnight. Every night I'd scroll through social media, and there she was, smiling. A new house, a new man, and a caption that said, "New beginnings." It crushed me, because I was still stuck in the ending she wrote for me. Then, one morning, a call came from an unknown number. "Mr. Collins?" "Yes," I answered, barely awake. "This is David Reynolds. I'm a property attorney. I believe you're still listed on the title of 52 Eastwood Drive?" That was our house, the one she was living in. I said, "Yeah, but my wife kept it after we separated." He paused. "Mr. Collins, according to the documents I reviewed, you're the primary owner, and based on the financing records, she used your equity to buy her new property." I sat up straight. "What do you mean?" He replied, "I mean, legally speaking, you might own 80% of that house she's living in." My heart stopped. For the first time in months, I felt something other than pain. It was shock. And then it turned into fire, because the woman who made me homeless was living comfortably in a mansion built with my money. I didn't know how I'd do it yet, but I swore right then. She was about to learn what betrayal truly felt like. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there in my truck, the phone still glowing in my hand, my heart pounding like I'd just woken from a nightmare that suddenly became real. The lawyer's words replayed in my head. You own 80% of that house. 80%. The same house she bought with my money, my sweat, my years. And for the first time in months, I smiled. Not out of joy, but out of realization. She thought she destroyed me. But in reality, she'd built her own downfall with my name written all over it. I called the lawyer the next morning. His tone was calm, professional, but I could hear a hint of surprise when I said, "Mr. Reynolds, I want to make things right." He asked if I wanted to sell the property or take legal action. I said, "I don't just want to take it back. I want her to know exactly what she took from me, and lose it in front of everyone." He was quiet for a second. Then he said, "Then we'll do this the clean way, Mr. Collins. Let the law speak for you." So we began. For weeks, I collected every document, every bank statement, every transaction that linked my name to that property. And the deeper we dug, the more shocking it became. Emily hadn't just used my equity. She'd forged my digital signature on transfer papers, shifted funds from our joint account and listed me as an inactive co-owner, while telling me she'd handled all the boring legal stuff. I wasn't just betrayed, I was robbed. But now, every single lie she told became a weapon in my hands. I still remember the first day I saw her again. The court hearing. She walked in, dressed like success. Elegant, confident, acting like she owned the room. Her new man was there too, sitting beside her, whispering in her ear like he was proud of stealing someone else's life. Then she saw me, and her smile disappeared. I didn't look broken anymore. I didn't look like the man who once slept in a truck, lost and defeated. I looked calm, focused, prepared. When the lawyer started speaking, her face changed, because she realized, and for the first time, that she was losing control. He laid out the documents one by one. Proof that the funds she used were mine. Proof that she faked my authorization. Proof that her so-called new beginnings were built on theft. And when the judge asked if I had anything to say, I simply said, "Your Honor, I don't want revenge. I just want back what's mine." But inside, I wanted her to feel every ounce of what she made me feel. Emily tried to defend herself. She said I'd abandoned her, that I gave up. But the evidence spoke louder than her lies. She looked smaller with every word. Even her new man started shifting uncomfortably, realizing this wasn't just drama, it was legal destruction. The verdict came 3 weeks later. I was awarded full ownership of the first house and 80% of her new property. The rest was considered compensation for damages and fraudulent activity. I remember sitting outside the courthouse that day, staring at the sky, barely breathing. The same world that once felt dark and cruel suddenly felt balanced again. I didn't feel angry anymore. I just felt free. But I didn't stop there. Revenge isn't always about what you take back. It's about what they lose without you saying a word. So I let her keep living in that house for a while. I said nothing. I waited. Then, one morning, she woke up to a letter on her doorstep. An official notice. The property she lived in, the one she bragged about online, showing off her new life, was being repossessed. Her posts stopped after that. Her smile vanished from every photo. And for the first time, I didn't feel sad about it. Because this time, it wasn't pain. It was justice. Weeks later, I visited that same mansion. Now empty, the paint fading, the driveway overgrown with weeds. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like closure. I walked through the hallways she once filled with lies, and I thought about how love can blind you, until betrayal forces you to see the truth. I didn't hate her anymore. I just pitied her, because she traded loyalty for luxury, and ended up with nothing. I turned to leave, the echo of my footsteps following me out the door, and in that silence I realized something. I didn't lose everything. I just lost her, and that was the best thing that could have happened to me. When I got back to my car, the lawyer called again. He said, "Mr. Collins, there's still more equity in your name than we thought. You could sell and start over easily." I smiled for real this time. "No," I said, "I'm done chasing money. I just want peace." And for the first time in years, I had it. Because revenge didn't rebuild me. Truth did. After the court case, life felt strange, like stepping out of a storm into sunlight I hadn't felt in years. I had my house back, my name cleared, my pride mostly intact. But something else had changed too. I realized I couldn't go back to the man I was before. Sleeping in my truck, eating cold noodles, drowning in betrayal, that version of me was gone. I started small. A new job in project management, something that paid well but also let me rebuild confidence. I joined a local gym, not just to get stronger physically, but to feel like I could take control of my life again. Even simple things. Cooking my own meals, sitting in my own living room, felt like victories. And slowly, I began reconnecting with people I had lost touch with. Old friends, cousins, co-workers. They didn't know the full story, and I didn't tell them. I didn't need sympathy. I needed my life back. Months passed, and I started feeling whole again. I even started dating. Cautiously, slowly, never rushing. I realized trust could be rebuilt. Carefully. Then, one afternoon, as I was fixing the front steps of my house, my phone rang. The caller ID said, "Emily." I almost didn't answer, but curiosity, and maybe a little lingering anger, made me pick up. "Danny, please, can we talk?" Her voice trembled. I stayed silent. "Look, I know I messed up. I was stupid, selfish. I didn't know how to handle things. I cut her off. I don't need apologies, Emily. You made your choices. You live with them." There was a long pause. I could hear her inhale sharply. "Danny, I lost everything. I didn't realize. I didn't think." I felt no rush of compassion. Not yet. "You stole from me, Emily. You betrayed me. You lost your home, your pride, and the life you thought you owned." Another pause. And then, almost a whisper, I'm asking for help. I need you." I didn't answer immediately, because part of me wanted to tell her to stay lost, to feel the emptiness she caused me. But another part wanted to see if she could learn humility, if she could finally understand the consequences of her choices. "I'll help you," I said finally, "not because I forgive you, not because I trust you, but because I believe everyone deserves a chance to face reality and learn from it." Her relief was audible, but I kept my voice steady. "You rebuild your life yourself, Emily. I'm not going to fix it for you. You have to live with your mistakes." That was the last real conversation we had. She moved to a small apartment, got a job in a modest office, and started over. It was slow, awkward, uncomfortable, and I watched from a distance, quietly satisfied. Not out of malice, but out of the justice life had finally delivered. As for me, I kept building my life. I traveled, took classes, learned new skills, invested in myself instead of someone who had taken me for granted. I even started volunteering, helping people who had been through betrayal or financial hardship, because I realized my pain could become purpose. The house, my house, became a sanctuary. Not just a building, but a symbol. A reminder that even when someone tries to destroy you, you can rise. You can reclaim what's yours, and then some. Sometimes people ask me if I hate her, and I don't. I don't wish her ill, but I hope she never forgets what it feels like to lose trust, to lose everything you think you own, and to face the truth of your own choices. Because that's the lesson I learned in the hardest way possible. Revenge isn't about hurting someone else. It's about reclaiming yourself, proving your own worth, and showing that no betrayal, no matter how deep, can define who you become. And now, years later, when I look at my life, I don't see loss. I see resilience, strength, freedom. I see a man who was broken and built himself back, stronger than ever. Sometimes, the people who betray us teach the most powerful lessons, but only if we survive them. I did, and I'll never let anyone take that from me again. Months passed, and life had settled into a rhythm I hadn't known in years. I was working, socializing, rebuilding, and most importantly, I was at peace. Then, one afternoon, I received an unexpected email. It was from a bank I didn't recognize. The subject line read, "Urgent, account discrepancy, Eastwood property." Curious, I opened it, and my blood ran cold. Emily had been mismanaging the finances of the property I partially owned. Not accidentally, deliberately. She had racked up debt, taken loans, and defaulted on payments, all while trying to act like she was thriving. I sat back, stunned. Even after everything, even after she lost the house, she was still making choices that could have dragged me into financial ruin if I hadn't taken control when I did. I called David, my lawyer. "Look, I know I told you to let her rebuild her life, but now she's trying to destroy what's mine indirectly." David was quiet. "Then it's time to act again, Daniel. Carefully, strategically. And that's exactly what we did. I didn't rush into confrontation. I watched, waited, and collected evidence. Every transaction, every risky loan, every lie she tried to spin, it was all documented. Then came the moment I'd been preparing for. She called me, panicked. "Danny, the bank, they're saying I'm in trouble. I don't know what to do." I listened quietly. "Emily, remember how you lost your life because of your choices?" I asked. "Yes," she whispered. "Well, now you have to face it again. You have to deal with the consequences. I'm not bailing you out this time." Her silence was deafening. I realized something in that moment. I no longer cared about revenge. It wasn't about her losing anymore. It was about me standing firm, showing that betrayal doesn't define me, and that I won't be dragged down by someone else's selfishness. Over the next few weeks, the situation unraveled for her completely. The property, already mine legally, now became unmanageable under her care. I didn't take it from her. I just let reality do what it does best: catch up. Meanwhile, I continued rebuilding my life. I took a long vacation, just me, a backpack, and a quiet cabin by the mountains. I hiked, I reflected, I finally let myself heal completely. And then came a strange sense of satisfaction. Not the gloating kind. No, it was deeper. It was the feeling that justice doesn't always need to be loud or messy. Sometimes it's quiet, subtle, and utterly irreversible. Emily eventually moved to another state, taking whatever lessons she could. I never heard from her again, and I didn't need to. Her disappearance from my life was its own kind of closure. I started mentoring young professionals, teaching them not just business skills but life skills: how to spot betrayal, how to trust wisely, and how to stand strong when someone tries to take advantage of your kindness. I realized that life had given me something far more valuable than revenge. It had given me wisdom, resilience, and the ability to rise stronger every single time someone tried to break me. Looking back, I can honestly say, losing her, losing that life, being homeless for a while, it was the crucible that forged the man I am today. And now, I sleep peacefully in my own home, with my own money, my own rules, and a life rebuilt on my terms. Sometimes people think revenge is about payback. But the truth is, the best revenge is living well, rising above, and never letting someone else's betrayal steal your future. Because when you survive betrayal and thrive afterward, you've already won. Years had passed since Emily disappeared from my life, and in that time, I had rebuilt not just my home or my finances, but my very sense of self. I wasn't the man who slept in his truck anymore. I wasn't the man who cried alone at night while scrolling through social media, watching the woman he loved live the life he thought was gone forever. I was stronger, wiser, free. I still remember the first morning I woke up in my fully restored house after the legal battles ended. Sunlight streamed through the windows, casting warm light on the walls I'd painted myself. I brewed a cup of coffee, stood on the balcony, and just breathed. For the first time in years, the world felt calm, safe, and mine. I thought about Emily, not with anger, but with understanding. People make choices, and some choices hurt others deeply. But ultimately, those choices reveal their character. Hers was selfish. Mine had to become resilient. I realized something important in all of this. Revenge isn't about hurting someone else. It's about reclaiming your power and proving to yourself that no one else controls your happiness. I didn't just get back my house or the money. I reclaimed my dignity, my confidence, and my ability to trust myself again. I even started dating again. Slowly, carefully, allowing myself to open up to someone who truly valued honesty and loyalty. Every small step, a conversation, a shared meal, a weekend hike, reminded me that life could be beautiful again, that happiness wasn't lost forever. Sometimes I'd hear stories of betrayal from friends or strangers, and I'd share a little of my own journey. Not as a cautionary tale to instill fear, but as proof that survival is possible. That heartbreak doesn't have to define you. And I'd tell them, you don't need to take revenge. Live well, rise above. Build a life so strong that anyone who tried to hurt you becomes a mere footnote in your story. Emily's betrayal had been devastating, yes, but it also sparked something I didn't realize I had. Determination, clarity, and strength. I learned to spot deceit, to trust wisely, and to protect what was mine without being consumed by bitterness. Even when she returned once, asking for help, I didn't crumble. I didn't act out of old feelings. I simply let life teach her the consequences of her choices, while I stayed grounded in mine. That's when I understood the ultimate truth about betrayal. It can either destroy you, or it can refine you into someone stronger than you ever imagined. I often walk through my house now, looking at the life I rebuilt. Every room tells a story, of struggle, of heartbreak, of resilience. I think about that night I sat in my truck, lost and broken, and I marvel at how far I've come. And I know this for certain. The pain she caused me didn't define my life. My actions afterward did. I chose justice, dignity, and self-respect over anger and obsession, and in that choice, I found freedom. So, if you've ever been betrayed, remember this. It's not about taking revenge in the way you think. It's about surviving, thriving, and proving that your life isn't dictated by someone else's betrayal. It's about waking up one morning, sipping your coffee in your own home, and realizing you're whole again. Because at the end of the day, the best revenge isn't chaos or payback. It's reclaiming yourself, living fully, and never letting anyone's deceit define your worth. I was homeless once. I was heartbroken once. But today, I am free, stronger, and finally at peace. And that, more than anything, is worth everything.